I traveled to 7 countries with the world's most explosive athletes, and we're gonna go through everything that I learned, and we're gonna start right now. So that first trip, I was fortunate enough to spend time with 3-time Olympic champion Pyrrhos Dimas in Heraklion, Greece. So I was there with Anna McElderry. Anna was competing at the Junior World Championships, and it was absolutely phenomenal to be at a World Championships for weightlifting in a country that is so historically rooted in Olympic weightlifting.
So why are we in Greece? We are here with the #2 weightlifter in the entire world, Anna McElderry, and she's got to bring home some hardware. Let's get rolling.
So we were able to spend time in Greece. I went on my first vacation ever with my wife. We were able to spend time together going around the island, seeing beautiful sights and having an absolute awesome time. Anna went out and competed really well. She snatched decently and then came back and gamed up on her clean and jerks. Now, some of the big lessons there is, especially when we're spending time with Pyrrhos Dimas, is it comes back to consistency. It comes back to hitting positions on a regular basis, and it comes back to holding the main goal in mind every single rep.
Okay, so it's the last day here in Greece. So what are the lessons behind Anna's competition? I think the big thing is have confidence in who you are and know how freaking strong you are. You know, she left a couple lifts out there on the platform, got 4th overall, which is great. 4th in the world is a phenomenal finish, but she could have hit her snatches and come out with some hardware. So have some confidence. Now we're on to the next trip.
So after Anna competed, she got 4th at the Junior World Championships. We headed to Iceland. I had never been to Iceland, and this was our first trip for the outdoor season for discus throwing, for track and field. And we were fortunate to go there with Sam Mattis, legend Boyson Hayes, and Noah Kennedy White. And we were going there to throw against the Swedes, the defending Olympic champion and the defending Olympic silver medalist. Now we were heading to Iceland, and Sam had just come off a huge throw in Tucson.
There you go.
But Sam was going into this competition as like the #3 ranked discus thrower in the world and going against Simone Peterson and Daniel Stahl. So this made for an absolutely phenomenal trip. I was able to be around Vestin Hafsteinson, who is arguably the greatest throws coach in the world. He is somebody that I look at as a mentor, and I was able to spend a couple different trips with him. And it's similar to Pyrrhos Dimas. When I'm around these other coaches that are absolutely the best, I want to pick their brain as much as possible. And with Vestin, what was interesting is he's from Iceland. He's from Selfoss, where we had our major competition. And so I could see how he was interacting with the local people because he is sort of like this big figurehead. I was even able to meet the Iceland president, which I thought was freaking awesome. But one of the big lessons with Vestin is just constant communication with his athletes, holding his athletes to a high standard. And that's what got him to have 2 different Olympic champions. And that's stuff that I pull from. If I can surround myself as a coach around people like Pyrrhos, around Vestin, I want to see how I can then implement the lessons from them into my training and into my communication with my athletes. And then leaving Iceland, I came home and I had about 4 days at home before I was heading to the Youth World Weightlifting Championship. So I was heading to Leon, Mexico. And down in Leon, I had 7 days to develop Ryan McDonald and Kyle Martin Jr. These are both 2 freaks that I think have a fantastic future in the sport of weightlifting. Someone like Ryan, who's 14, 15, someone like Kyle, who's 16 years old, and try to help them in their competition setting, that's gonna help them perform better at an earlier age. And the more experience they get on that world level, the better they're gonna be when they're seniors. And if weightlifting stays in the Olympics, I think these 2 have a legitimate shot.
All right, so Ryan's about to compete. He's competing in about 2.5 hours. He's got to weigh in. He was 60.6. Got 6 big lifts ahead of him, so let's see how he does.
Kyle Martin Jr. went out and performed really phenomenally. Same with Ryan McDonald. Both of them hit PRs in the snatch and in the clean and jerk and in their totals. So they peaked absolutely perfectly, and they handle the pressure of being in a foreign country where English is not the native language. They handle that really well. They handle the change of food. They handle the change of culture absolutely perfectly. And that's just an example of where we can make adaptations in our training and in our preparation so that when we go to other countries, we're ready to deal with it. Some of the things we might do in training is 5 sets of cleans and then back off where you have to sit for 8 minutes, because these are things that happen inside of major competitions. But for both of these individuals, it's not looking at that final result as, you know, they didn't bring home a medal, they still finished top 6, both of them. The big lesson is the fact that they are competing on a world stage and they're competing with a lot of pressure on them. If you can compete with a lot of pressure, you get comfortable with pressure, and then that helps you to compete better as you get older. So I come back from Mexico. I've got about another 3 to 4 days. And meanwhile, when I'm in Mexico, I'm doing technical analysis, writing training programs, getting everybody set up to peak for US track and field national championships. So we were gonna go there with Monique Riddick, Rachel Fatherly, Noah Kennedy White, Sam Mattis, legend Boyson Hayes, Josh Sarachin, Lucas Warning, and Taman Johnson. So we've got a whole team that was heading out there. We had 2 different Airbnbs, basically have 2 different camps, shot putters and discus throwers. And the whole goal here was to get somebody onto that world team. This was a major qualifier for Worlds, okay? And Worlds was also subsequently held in Eugene. So the big thing here was we were gonna compete. We had about a 2 to 3 week layover after the national championships. And then if somebody made the world championships, we were gonna be going back there. Josh Sarachin was just on the bubble. If he could finish in the top 5, top 3, he would make the team. I knew that Sam Mattis was gonna go out and hopefully perform really, really well and get on that world team. And then we had a couple other people that started to compete really, really well. Noah Kennedy White went out, tied his PR in the first round, had to sit for 35 minutes, and then came back and then tied his PR again and ended up getting in the top 8 at nationals. And the cool part here is that we have a full-fledged professional throwing team. So we sort of travel as a group. And when we travel as a group, we compete as a group, and we stay tight together. And that was one of the hardest things as well to deal with, is that you're trying to manage all of these crazy personalities, all these awesome personalities. You're trying to get everybody to compete really well. But in the men's discus, the hard part came down to going into the final. Noah, Josh, Legend, and Sam were all in the top 9. And it came down to if Josh would hit a big throw, he would bump Noah down to 9th, and he would get into the top 8. So Noah, Legend, and Josh were in 7th, 8th, and 9th place. The hardest part there is, as a coach, you want to coach everybody to compete at their absolute best, but you also don't want somebody to bump someone else out. And that's actually what ended up happening, is that Noah and Legend performed better than Josh. They bumped Josh out of that top 8 final. And I think that what we learned from that and talking with Josh is that we have to take this in stride. We have to learn from those mistakes, and we have to take advantage of every opportunity. When you're trying to peak at a national championships at the senior level in track and field in the United States, you have to be on point, and you can't be distracted by anything other than what you can impact. Whatever you can impact is all that matters. And I think that's the big lesson that I took from Eugene. Now, I was at the USATF Track and Field National Championships, and I flew directly to the National Championships for weightlifting in Las Vegas. So I left on a Sunday, landed on Sunday morning, or Monday morning, I guess it was, around 2 in the morning.
It's 1 a.m. Just landed in Las Vegas. I gotta wake up at 6:30.
I slept till about 6 in the morning, and then I went right to the venue where I was fortunate enough to coach my niece, who ended up getting 5th at the Youth National Championships. I also got to coach Kyle Martin Jr. again, and then that led into this entire week of just coaching ballers. Lucy Wynn, Jeannie Beljour, all these other beasts, Colt Armstrong. They all performed phenomenally. So one of those things that sort of frustrated me leaving Eugene was that we didn't perform as well as we should have. No one left as a national champion. I had hoped that Sam was gonna win that national title, but he didn't. I sort of felt like a huge letdown from myself. I felt like I let down our athletes. But what ended up happening was, going to the national championships for weightlifting, Jake Horse went out and snatched 145 kilos. This is like a top 7 snatch of all time. One of the best pound for pound snatches in the history of the United States. That performance was just off the freaking chart. The weight class above him didn't out-snatch him. He snatched in line with the weight class above him. And then we also had someone like Russell Bowman, who ended up going into his 2nd meet ever, and he snatched out of his mind. But the big thing that I learned too was also just how good of a competitor Colt Armstrong is. He went out and compete against Wes Kitts, who's an Olympian, and Ryan Sester, who's been on a Pan Am and a world team, and he went toe-to-toe with them and snatched 159 to get second. And during that competition, that's when I also was able to experiment with a couple different ideas that I have with the cards and running the cards in weightlifting. So I sort of used Colt as an experiment for later on, and I think that's the big lesson for me. One is that if you're confident in your athletes, you can do a little bit more creative work as a coach, and you can get away with it because you know how well your athletes are going to perform. And so I think I have some lessons as far as my training and my preparation for the track athletes that didn't perform that well that I was able to reflect on when I was in Las Vegas, and I saw how well we prepared with our weightlifters. That enabled me to then take those lessons and say, all right, you have a lot of confidence in your weightlifters. Some stuff went through the cracks with your throwers. This is what you can learn from Vegas. This is what you can learn from Eugene, and this is how you can travel forward and make those adjustments in everybody's training. So, it was great to just go across the board, coach everybody to multiple national titles. I had Jake Horse win, Ryan McDonald won, Kyle Martin Jr. won. I can't even remember who else medaled. I think Lucy got third. Ginny got second or third in the 45K weight class, and she just tore it up. And then again, Colt going toe-to-toe. He went 5 for 6, barely missed a 196 clean and jerk. And there was a bunch of other athletes in there that it just was an absolutely phenomenal experience. I was drained, I was gassed, and I still had to head home. And after heading home, I was gonna have about another 3 to 4 days at home, try to recover, try to get my feet under me at work, and then I was gonna get back out on the road. And that took me back to Eugene for the World Championships. And at the World Championships, we had Eric Faber's first World Championship qualification in his career. Huge, huge accomplishment. He came to Garage Strength last fall, moved here on site, and he's been training his ass off. He PR'd this year through 2050 and made it to the World Championships, made it to European Championships as well. So this was a huge, huge step for him. And I can relate this to just getting on that international scene and him getting his feet wet. He came in at like 24th and ended up finishing like 15th. An absolutely incredible experience for him as he starts to develop on that professional circuit. All right, so Eric ended up with 1979, I think it was, which was 20th. It would have taken 2024, I think, to make it, so a little bit lower than most people expected. But this is a great experience for him, did well, competed well. I'm excited for him. Did a great job in the comp. And this takes us to Cece Onyekwere, the Nigerian discus thrower who is an absolute stud. She went to Tokyo last year. Now, she was dealing with an injury all spring. She works at Ford as an engineer, and so she's been dealing with a bunch of different stress levels, and she didn't perform as well as she could have. And that was a huge letdown emotionally, I would say, because I want her to succeed so much. I know how much work she puts into it. I know how much energy she puts into her sport, how much energy she puts into her job, and how she's just the ultimate high performer. And to see her frustrated and to see her sort of upset just killed me. Now, the kicker here is that she had Commonwealth Games about 3 weeks later, and she stayed in Eugene for about 2 weeks of just training. And we're gonna come back to that. Now, the big thing in Eugene, Sam Mattis made the World Championship final. Alex Rose made the World Championship final. So this is the first time I ever had 2 discus throwers make the men's final. Top 12 make the final, and then when you're in the final, if you get top 8, you're in the money spot. Sam ends up getting in 10th. This is like the 3rd team in a row. He's the #1 performing American discus thrower. The big kicker here, Alex Rose made the World Championship final and he got 8th place. He was the first Pacific Islander to ever make the top 8 at a World Championships. He throws for and represents Samoa. Was also the deepest World Championship field ever in the history of the sport. 8th place was 65.50, and then the #1 place broke the competition record. So when you look at it, Alex's mark in 2015 would have medaled, would have gotten him 3rd place. Alex hit me up back in like fall of 2015, and he said, Dane, I wanna train with you. I want to try and make the Olympics. And so I actually have some of our old programs where we would write on composition paper. So I would write his program on a composition paper and just text him a picture of it. We did a lot of this over Facebook Messenger. So we've made a lot of progress since then. And Alex made the Olympics in 2016. Now, what's interesting is that he's never made an international final, okay? He made Commonwealth Games final in 18, but he never made a World Championships. He never made an Olympic final. What was so cool is, and one of the coolest experiences for me is that his whole family had come out to see him in Eugene. And I will never forget he had been in the early qualification group, and he's running around the corner and he's like, Dane, I made it, Dane, I made it. Bawling and just super emotional. And I'm, starting to get emotional myself thinking about it, because it's such a special moment. And for me, it puts things into perspective that, you can be called an idiot on the internet. You can be called a buffoon by YouTube influencers who react to my videos, but they don't have those experiences with athletes. They're not in the trenches with their athletes. They're not spending this time with their athletes who are making tons of sacrifices, and they don't get to have the experience of hugging someone like Alex Rose when he makes the world final. They don't see that effort. They don't have that experience, and I have empathy for them, because it's an absolutely phenomenal memory that I will never forget. And I think now what's crazy is leaving that World Championships and looking back on it, it's like, I want Eric to make a world final. I want Cece to make that world final. I want Sam to medal. I want Alex to medal. And it motivates me as a coach because of that shared journey. You want to have more cool experiences with that. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned leaving Eugene, was that we're there. We've arrived. Garage Strength has arrived, and we're on the world stage, and we're making finals. And the next stop for us is to earn those medals. I leave World Championships. I fly home on a Thursday, and then I left on a Friday to go to the Pan Am Championships for weightlifting.
All right, so we are going to Colombia with Jake Horst, Haley Reichert, Senior Pan Ams 2022, and we're starting right now.
Personally, I was dealing with a lot of stress. My grandmother had passed away when I was in Eugene for the World Championships, and I was really struggling emotionally because of the stress from travel, the stress from the events, World Championships, going to Pan Am Championships. And I was heading to Bogota with Jake Horst, with Haley Reichert, and my grandmother's funeral was the day that we were leaving to go to Bogota. So that's a real world struggle, real world issue, and it's something that I still struggle with, where it's like how much time I'm away, and the sacrifices I make, and it's like trying to find this balance between the two experiences of my personal life and my business life, or coaching these athletes to become world champions, right? But when we went to Bogota, I think what was so cool for me was how well Jake Horst and how well Haley Reichert handled it. I wasn't in the best mind space. What they did was absolutely incredible. Haley went out and won the Pan Am Championships as a 49K weightlifter. She actually missed her second clean and jerk, and then came back and had this huge lift, which was a huge emotional breakthrough, mental breakthrough, and defeated one of the best weightlifters in the entire world. And now she's ranked top 3 in the entire world. So she's coming on really well as we head into those Olympic qualifiers, but she's also a 2-time Pan Am champ. So she's won 2 Pan Ams in a row. Jake went out, snatched really, really well, and then missed his last 2 jerks in the clean and jerk. He hit 4 in a row, ended up going 4 for 6. He got 4th in total, 3rd in the snatch, but still competed at a very, very high level and hit his 2nd best total ever. So now both of them have qualified for the senior world team, and realizing like it all comes back to what you can impact. We can't worry about everybody else. We got to worry about what our job is, what our role is, and what our cues are on every single specific session, so that we can constantly improve ourselves and not worry about everybody else. Now, I got about a 5-day break when I left Bogota. I came home, and then I had to head back out after about 5 days to Birmingham, England for the Commonwealth Games. This is where I was going to be coaching Obajiri Amici, Cece Onyekwera, and then Alex Rose. I thought 2 out of the 3 of them could medal. The men's discus was going to be stacked. Jamaicans are stacked. He's Australian. Matty Denny is a total machine. He's a beast. He was in good form. As far as the women's side, I thought Cece, if she was in form, could go out and beat Jade Lally from Great Britain. It was pretty stressful. We were able to set some things up, got really good training in, and then we went into qualification for the men's discus. Alex went out and just smacked a bomb right on his first throw, got himself in position to qualify and make it through. Then we go into the women. Cece was on fire, and you could just feel the energy of every single throw. She was starting to line stuff up. And remember, I had mentioned that when she was in Eugene, she spent 2 extra weeks there just training, not working, just training, just focusing on her throws. And what ended up happening is that she went out in round 4, round 5, and just put the comp on lockdown.
So Onyekwere of Nigeria in round number 4, her best 56.42. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's got a good flight on it. And she's delighted as she runs off. 61 meters and 70, a season's best. She goes into gold. Hugs all round from the coaches.
She goes out, hits a monster bomb, goes 61.72, and no one else is going to touch her. You know, you could just tell like that competition was hers. And even going into that fourth round, she was in like third or fourth place, but every throw was getting better, and she had fouled a monster throw earlier in the comp. She just found that stride, and I think what people need to understand with someone like Cece is that she had a very poor experience in Tokyo. She dealt with so much stress because of a lack of administrative handling. She didn't throw well in Eugene. It was sort of like a little bit of a letdown. But for her to respond and come back and be a Commonwealth Games champ, it was top 2 or 3 experiences of my entire coaching career. It reminds me now, reflecting back on the emotion that I had with Alex and just giving Cece that big hug and how exciting that moment was is why I coach and why I like to experience this stuff. And what was even crazier is that round 5, round 6, Obi went out and just tore into 2 big throws, goes 57, I think she went 57.89 and got third. So we left the first competition with 2 medals, 2 Commonwealth Games medals. Now that takes us into the men's discus. And we were sort of looking at it like, Alex maybe could win, but at least medal. Goes out, throws well, throws 64.56 and loses by 2 centimeters for third place. Gets 4th overall, okay, places 4th, but misses that medal spot. I think the emotional high that you have from a world championships, and then he comes back and like just misses that medal spot. As a coach, I look back, I'm like, man, where did I go wrong? What did we screw up? What could we have done better? And dude, that was hard. That was extremely hard. I've never seen Alex so pissed. I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I think the lesson coming back from that was it's a game of centimeters. Literally, you lose by 2 centimeters. It's basically where the person puts their stick. It could have been 3 centimeters in Alex's favor, depending on where the mark was. But I think what's cool is that with his success from the World Championships and then his semi-letdown from the Commonwealth Games, I think he's going to come back motivated more than ever. And that takes us into that next big trip. So we left Commonwealth Games, and then I had about a 3.5-week break, thank God. So I was able to spend time with my family, my wife, be around everybody. And my final trip was heading to Zurich for the Diamond League final. Remember I mentioned earlier, the experience that I have with the athletes on these trips is what motivates me. It's so fun to share these experiences and to see them grow as individuals and to see them be better people and to see them compete well and to see them write down their goals and achieve those goals. And so we're going to Zurich to the Diamond League final with Sam Mattis. There's only 6 men that get invited there. They're basically the top 6 discus throwers in the entire world. We show up on a Tuesday. Sam's gonna compete on a Thursday, so it's a very, very quick turnaround. Sam hadn't competed since Worlds, and when he was at Worlds, he still threw 65 in qualifying, threw 63 in the final, but he felt like he let down himself, his parents to a point, maybe me, I don't know, but I was still proud of him from Worlds. But as we were prepping and as he's throwing, we made some really key technical changes. We started to really focus on 2 or 3 things out of the back of the circle. And those audibles, mid-season audibles, ended up paying off huge. He goes into Zurich, opens up with a 63-meter throw.
That was pretty nice. That was wrong start.
Good start.
That boy can't go double with 63.
Ends up second throw, goes 65, looks like he's in great form, is in second place all the way up through the 5th round. 6th round gets bumped down to 4th, but just performed absolutely phenomenally, and ironically leaves 2 days later and goes to Zagreb, where he goes and throws 67 meters, hits the world standard to qualify for next year, so that's out of the way. So that experience with Sam is that, 1, he can compete after basically an 8-week layoff, but 2, it's okay to make crazy audibles. He still has that 68-meter throw from earlier in the season. He's still a top 10 guy in the entire world, and we're still trying to get better. We're still trying to figure out where he can improve. We're still trying to figure out how to get him back into shape. He actually took about a week off after Worlds, and then we started that training system back up, and within 8 weeks got back into good form. So that's stuff that we can keep in our back pocket for a very, very long season. I think what everything comes back to is that in sports that are Olympic based, there's not a lot of funding. There's not a lot of effort from national governing bodies that goes into this. And for me, it's like support from you guys is huge. Support from you guys on the channel, support from you guys even buying some of our products so that we can help support our athletes. That's what all of this is about. And traveling with all these athletes, learning all these lessons, and having this shared experience that we can then put out to you guys. I hope this is motivational. And you know, 13 years ago when I started Garage Strength in my parents' garage, I could have only dreamed of this stuff happening. And now that it's happening, it's so phenomenal, and it makes me so proud of the athletes, the work ethic that they put in, my employees, the work ethic that they put into it. And I think that when you're training Olympic sports, it always just comes back to that shared experience, that shared journey, and it's constant improvement. It's constant improvement as a coach. It's constant improvement as athletes. It's constant improvement in your training system. And the more that you do that, and the more that you reflect on where your improvements can be, the more crazy experiences, the more crazy stories that you're gonna have as a coach, as a leader, and as athletes, as developing athletes. So thank you guys for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting all of our athletes. And with that being said, our goal now is that heading into Paris 2024, I want this channel to grow to 1 million subscribers by Paris 2024. So if you can share this content, share this video, let everybody know that we want to develop more and more Olympians. We want to share this journey. We want to help you guys get to Paris, get to LA, get to the Olympics, get to Brisbane in 2032, so we can constantly refine our training system and help everybody out there become freaks. And when we're talking about developing Olympians, that's exactly why we developed the Peak Strength app. You can head over to peakstrength.app, pick that up today. And that's one of the main reasons too, is like, this is our training system that we use to develop all these world-class athletes. This is the training system that now you can have in your phone to help you become a better athlete and to help you get to the Olympics and help yourself constantly refine your overall training system. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.